how do you take your tea?
I actually controversially don't like tea at all. Can't really drink any caffeine because I'm so full of energy that if you had caffeine to that, I'd be running laps.
Rebekah, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us here at Catalyst by Comply Advantage. First question, who are you? Tell us about who you are, what you do, and something that the kind of stuff that we can't get from looking at your LinkedIn profile.
So my name's Rebekah. I'm the Chief Exec at Stop The Traffik. You won't get much from looking at my LinkedIn profile because I'm not very good at doing all of the LinkedIn things, but I'm one of 6 siblings. I live in London, just by London Bridge.
Why does Stop The Traffik exist and what do you do?
Stop The Traffik exists actually because our founder once had a bottle of wine. She was in India at the time and they had recently come across somebody who had sold their child in exchange for a bottle of wine. And they started to work with the communities in that area. And during it, across the evenings of that time, they actually said, like, we have to do something about this. At that point, trafficking wasn't understood in the way that it is now. There were no sustainable development goals around it. It wasn't really on the kind of public agenda. And what they did at the time was get 1,500 signatures to the UN. And they made Steve Chalk, one of our co-founders, the special rapporteur on anti-trafficking for the UN. And they never really planned on starting a charity, but they'd kind of accidentally kind of started a movement of these 1.5 million people saying, well, what are you going to do about it? Because what's a petition going to do? What's the action that's going to happen? And so they formed Stop The Traffik. That was 20 years ago, and for the first 10 years of Stop The Traffik, they did a lot of awareness raising. The reason that you can come into Comply Advantage today and hear about human trafficking and people broadly know what you're speaking about was really on the kind of shoulders of organisations like Stop The Traffik, who got this into media and TV programmes and a huge amount of community work. They realised that unless we could see trafficking, we were never going to stop it. And so they began the largest data hub on human trafficking, which is now the richest data set on human trafficking globally, the Traffic Analysis Hub. And what Stop The Traffik does is use that data hub to predict where trafficking is going to happen, and then we do something about it. We have 2 main groups that we work with, people at risk of trafficking and people who can do something about traffickers. For the people at risk of trafficking, we deliver global campaigns that equip people in the moments that matter with information about how they could avoid trafficking.
Push approach is definitely having a much bigger impact than just being passive.
Absolutely, and no one wants to be profiting off of modern slavery. The work that we do with banks in particular is the work that I think can really change the world, because this is a numbers game to the perspective of traffickers, and prevention is so much better. The intervention work is so incredibly important. I spent 10 years of my career working with people who had been trafficked, and it still motivates me to this day, but they all told me 2 things. The best thing that could have happened to them was if this didn't happen to them. And the second thing they would tell me is how this could not happen to somebody else. So they would tell me how they were moved from A to B, what they were promised, what they wish they'd known. The idea that that could be used to stop that from happening to somebody else used to be theoretical to me. And so finding Stop The Traffik was cathartic to me. And even at the beginning of Stop The Traffik, I still thought, can you ever really stop this from happening to somebody? It's so devastating. But I didn't have that awareness of the business model that sits behind this. This isn't about somebody's bad psychology. This is a numbers game for traffickers. They're making huge amounts of profit and facing very little risk. And the thing that could change that is compliance and the financial services sector.
How can data and analytics help in the fight against human trafficking?
Data analytics is everything in the fight against human trafficking. Traffickers are relying on a lack of transparency around their business model, and people with lived experience have the key insights that traffickers are hoping don't get placed into the hands of law enforcement or banks or businesses or governments or researchers. It was our founder, Ruth Dernley, who said, if we can't see it, we can't stop it. And so data and analytics is everything. Sometimes amusing to me that I'm leading a data and analytics organisation. I am very fortunate that I joined the organisation during COVID and had a second screen so I could look up what things meant when everyone was asking me if we had all these widgets and gadgets, because what I feel like I'm an expert in is stories. And that's all data really is. It's stories that have been packaged in a certain way that somebody can take action with them.
What one change in the financial system would make your work that much more effective?
There's lots I'd love to change. I'd love the conversation to be accelerated. I think there's a challenge with trafficking that it is such a devastating thing that happens that it can almost feel further away than it is. But just like meters from this building, I've seen cases of trafficking or people held in trafficking. It really is in proximity to us. It can feel like we're sometimes stuck at the conversation of this terrible thing is happening. And I think it's challenging for businesses to talk about the great work that they do to disrupt trafficking and traffickers, because there can be a reputational worry. So I'd love for there to be more consortiums of organisations, because this is in everybody's backyard.